Thank you.
All right, sure thing. Thanks for joining y'all today. It's June 26th. Hey there, Lane. What's so funny? All right, so it'll be a little bit different tonight because I'm starting to use. It's so useful to use artificial intelligence. So I'm gonna show you what I'm doing and maybe give you guys some ideas. Before I do that, Jim always reminds me I've got to talk about aceofcoins.com. So that's a way to get a hold of me for right now. Maybe not in the near future. I don't know if this AI thing works out. So not that I don't like talking to you guys, but aceofcoins.com is a way to get on my calendar so you can talk with me. You can schedule a time. The way I work it is I do a series of calls. So when you book a time with me, you pay for my consultation, but it carries over to two or three more calls, sometimes five if I need to. That also includes me preparing documents if that's necessary, if it's going to support what we discussed in our initial conference call, okay? Um, and so I give you a coupon code after the first call. So that's how I work those consultations. Then, of course, you can order the consulting package, all right? So I'm not selling LLCs; it's consulting. So it's 12.90 as you can see in the order form, and then I usually set up an LLC or sometimes two, depends on what I'm advising you to do. Okay, so there's that, and then aceofcoins.club. So what we have is different categories of video subscriptions. And so what I've done over the years is I try to categorize them in like a several major categories, which you can see there. And I try to put a reasonable price that's similar to what I've been charging over the years. But Jim and I decided we're going to do like this from now on. You're going to start seeing different series that are small modules, like maybe three, four, or five video series. Okay. Like maybe 20, 30, 40 minutes each video, maybe to teach a certain concept or a collection of concepts that are all related. And we're going to put those together in this different series, and they're going to be a lot less money, like maybe a few $100s, maybe it's going to be $20. It depends on what we're going to do there. So that's going to come out pretty soon. But tonight I wanted to show you how I've been using AI. Maybe you guys can share some of your experience because I know some of you have been doing this. So if we can get started, I'm going to just go into that right now. I'm gonna get into a share screen here, and I'm going to show you some. I cooked up five. I call them demonstrations, and I don't know. Maybe it's useful to you, but what I found is I can take a legal document, a very large one, and I can feed it to the artificial intelligence, and then I can ask it questions about that document. And like for example, um, if there's a contract with a company, they get complicated. Sometimes they're long and they have a lot of terms, right? 50 pages, 40 pages, right? I can feed the contract to the AI. Then I can tell the AI a story. I can say, in this company, we have this situation that there's a dispute and here's what it looks like. And so I tell the AI, like I'm just telling my friend, what happened at work, right? So then I'll ask the AI based on the set of facts I just gave you, do you think there's a conflict with what the other party did or didn't do as compared with the requirements of the contract? Okay. And like in 1 second, it's going to tell you, right? Now, I don't come to the end quickly. I just ask the AI, I get it familiar with what the foundation I'm trying to start from. Okay. So we give it the foundation. Sometimes I have to say, hey, I'll say to the AI, literally, I'll say like this. Hey, regarding the federal rules of civil procedure in the United States, that's how I started. Okay. Or regarding the Americans with Disabilities Act specifically, and then I'll give it a citation, and then I'll give it maybe a website link with the text on there, right? So it can read it. I'll ask it to read the act, and then I'll ask it a legal question, right? So now that let's say I identify, I feed it a contract, and then I give it a set of facts, and I say, do you think there's a breach of contract here? And the AI comes back and says, yeah, it looks like that you might have a cause of action for a breach of contract, and also there might be this other thing, and it'll come up with something that maybe you didn't think of because it had read the whole contract and it understands it faster than you could have, right? It would have taken you weeks to come up with this, right? Or days maybe. So the AI can do this. So once the AI comes up with maybe a conclusion that you're asking for, you have a contract, you have a set of facts, you think there's something wrong with what happened, like there's a breach of contract, right? Or a default. Or maybe someone owes you money, right? Under the terms of the contract and the set of facts. So you then ask the AI, and sometimes it asks you, would you like me to prepare a complaint to file in the court? Okay, and if it doesn't, you can ask it, can you prepare a complaint that I could file in court stating a cause of action for what you just described? And it will do that. It'll be nice. And then you can maybe you want to do some more research, right? So this kind of builds out. So what I've been doing is if I have a case where I need to appeal something, I've already done my work to build the case up to for 6 months or 18 months. And so what I'll do is I'll feed in the relevant documents I've already prepared, along with like maybe the opposing party's documents. I'll feed them into the AI and I'll ask it for an appellate brief. Now, sometimes I'll ask it for an appeals brief first with like on a particular subject. So that way the appeals brief conforms to the rules of procedure for formatting and all these kind of things that go along with all the rules. Then I'll ask it to revise the brief based upon all these other set of facts that I've led into over the past month, you see. And I think I've found I get much better results than if I just jump into something and say, give me the answer. You know, I should have an idea of what the answer should be. Okay, that's how I've been doing it. But you guys can jump in with a question, but I'm gonna yeah, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna show you one an example of my first demonstration here. So I try to pick something that maybe you guys would have an interest in. So debt collection. So here you're going to see my prompt, right? So this is the part that's the most important is how do you talk to the AI? You're talking to like a person. You have to think of it like that. You want to give it enough information, complete sentences, and give it the references it needs. And so I want to ask it. So what I did is you can look at these links here. I found an example of a debt collection letter on the internet, and I found the copy of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Just a very simple scenario. And I asked it to this thing, how can I respond? I didn't even make any conclusions or anything. I just said, how can I respond in a way that preserves my rights under the FDCPA, right? And this is what it did for me. It says, hey, I did it. Here you go. It took like 1 second. And then it's telling me how to mail it and all this stuff, right? And then, so here we go. This is how I would write it. And you can see, I did not edit this whatsoever. And this, I'm gonna tell you right now, if I'm gonna write a letter, it's gonna look a lot like this. If I write it cold with no format, form letters, I'm gonna write it like this very much. I will throw in my own little thing in there, but this is where I'm developing my AI device. And when my AI device does something, it'll be like this, but it's going to have my strategies in there. It's going to have my style of writing things that I think is more powerful in many cases. But you see how this can be done, okay? So what I'm sharing this with you is because I want you to see AI as a way that you can just have some empowerment. You can just it's a tool. It's like, having a really good lawnmower, right? Instead of, having a no lawnmower, right? This is a tool. So look at all these things it brings up, right? There's a $1,000 penalty, and it goes on from there. I mean, I could take it like this. I could even take it to a point where, let's say I did this letter, right? And they ignore me. Or maybe they write a letter back and they say, yeah, we verified the correct spelling of your name. Okay, fine. So then the creditor sues and I get a summons and a complaint in the mail. What I would do is I would start this as a project to start with, as you can see. I would make it a project. And by the way, I pay for this service, 20 bucks a month, Chat GPT. And I would scan my the summons and complaint into a PDF file, a single PDF, no pages, just one page, one document. And I would feed it into the AI and I would ask it to review it. And then I would ask it to draft for me a response with, let's say, common defenses, because I'm saying it that way because you don't know what they would be because you don't do this. You're not a professional that does this. So for you, I would just say, well, I imagine there's some defenses. I don't know what they are, but I would ask the AI to write a response to this complaint, and I would ask it to list the possible defenses that I could have in this scenario. That way, when you read them, maybe you need the AI to explain it further, which you can do, but then you can select which of those responses you want to keep and which ones you want to delete, right? So that's just a general idea. You don't have to be powerless, okay? Likewise, you can have the AI do something like, okay, we can even go to the next, I'm gonna go to the next one. Did you have any questions on this? Did that, yeah, Elaine, you gotta unmute.
Yeah, you said you mentioned whether you can take this an appellate brief or an appeals brief, and that means specifically for Florida.
Any state. any province in the world. You can do it. It'll work. If you give it
So
enough
what's the
information,
difference?
it'll do it.
What's the difference between an appellate brief and an appeals brief?
Well, it's the same thing. It
Oh,
depends on how you're
okay.
using the term. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can say it interchangeably.
This is
Yeah. hmm It's really amazing. And I mean, I can take an appeals brief and I can do the reverse. I can take the brief and I can analyze it. I can ask it questions and pull information out of there without reading everything. So um let's see here. Let me just do another one. All right. So let's go to project demonstration 2.
There's some people that have their hand raised, just so you
Oh,
know.
somebody raised his hand. I didn't oh, okay, I see. Alex, go ahead.
Hey, John. So, as you know, I'm in like the late stages of an FDCPA case right now,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and we've been you've been helping me with a lot of stuff, and I've been using ChatGPT. And one of the things that I've been doing that might be helpful for other people is I've been putting. I actually found some of the opinions of the judge of my case, and I fed them into ChatGPT, and I asked it to write my motions in the same tone and style as him.
Very good. I like it. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, so you'll agree with them already.
Right.
Nice. Very clever. Yeah,
So there's a lot of ways
there's
you
so
can
many
use it.
creative things. Yeah. Yeah. Karen.
I was just curious if you've tried sentient at all. I've heard Ray talk about sentient. Or do you just believe that you can get equal information with the chat GPT
Well,
that
so
you
far I'm happy with the results. I'm sure there's some different variations. I don't know if each program is different or if they're using some sort of same backbone like Google and all the search engines are using Google. You know, I don't know if that's the case, but I'd have to try them differently for my particular application to know which is better.
right, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I mean, I'm sure what is it, like 100 out there? There's probably so many.
There's like 500 now. Yeah.
Is there? Okay, well, what are you gonna do? I mean, I'm really happy with this OpenAI deal. So
Okay, great.
yes, yeah. So on this, so here's another one where I went on to a situation where, let's see, here's my question. I made up a story. This actually is a very common story of my clients. Okay. Recently served with a summons, has 2 counts. Uh, and I make this argument. Now I'm helping it make an argument here. So I'm saying something that I want the AI to consider and uh, make conclusions upon. This is so I always like to start a case by saying, look, I don't know you people, a debt collector lawsuit or a creditor lawsuit. I don't know you people. I never had any deal with you guys because the reason why I say it that way is because they don't have evidence that I ever agreed to any terms with them. So why would I even acknowledge having a credit account with them? They can't prove it. So I'm going to give that type of bias to the AI. That's what I'm doing right here. Okay. And then I'm going to give it another kind of head. I'm giving it a little lead here. Okay. Now this is because I know to do this. I don't know if you'll know, but I'm just telling you this is how I'm using it. And then what I'm asking is, can you prepare? Now I happen to know that in California, if you want to respond to a complaint with a motion to dismiss, the rules require it to be written as what's called a demurrer. That's just a French term, I think. You can find out the rules is almost the same as a motion to dismiss, almost the same criteria. But I asked it to write me a demurrer under the rules of California. Okay. And there you go. It went ahead and cited the statute, the rule and the statute. These are generic reasons for the motion. So I would revise them. You could also ask the AI to revise. You can have some, better, this is a pretty good motion the way it is. I have not revised it at all. I just rested only on what you see here. I think I asked it one question, maybe 2 questions. So this is what it's going to do this for you. And then here's the first page. It's introducing the demurrer. And there you go. As to the first cause of action for stated account, it doesn't allege the existence of an account stated. Okay. Now another argument here is that there's no underlying debt, right? So if I were going to expound on this, I would ask we could do it right now actually. Let's see here. So I could ask on this, for example, The legal standard is what it says here. So the legal standard pertains to demurrers generally. Notice how there's two legal citations, right? So watch, if I just go here and I say something like, first cause of action for stated account. Okay, watch this. I'm going to say to the AI, regarding your the uh, general demurrer for stated account that you have here, the complaint. Now, I don't have the complaint, right? I just made this story up. But if I had the complaint in my hand and I scanned it to a PDF, I can give it to the AI and I can be more effective, right? So I'm prompting it as we go because I didn't give it the complaint. So I'm telling it more about the complaint. So I'm saying the complaint failed to allege any underlying debt for the claim of stated account. Can you revise this demurrer to include, let's say, an argument with this fact and also supporting legal citations, right? And I don't even put a question there. It's a statement. It's going to do it for me. So it only revised that one section. It's very specific. Yeah. Yeah. So it revised that one section. See this? It's a lot more than what it had before. See? So then it gives me more legal citations. This is very important. Actually, it did very well here. This is really nice. Now look at this. Look at all this, all these legal citations. Now, that doesn't mean you should just accept it at face value. You should go look it up. Go look online and see if this case is pertinent to a debt collection, right? Or whatever is going to be correct. It's like the mere recitation of a legal conclusion without supporting facts is insufficient to withstand a demurrer. So that's not about a debt collection, but it's about demurrers in general, right? This is very important to have in your document here. So this becomes even stronger. This demurrer becomes even stronger. So if I just put this in place of the original one, you see how much better it is. It just keeps getting better from there. Imagine if you started the case this way and let's say the judge denies your demurrer, which is common, doesn't mean that you're wrong, but the judge may want to hear the case and it goes through discovery and you go through some motions to the court and then you get into like dispository motions. Maybe each party tries to file a motion to dismiss, right? And let's say it goes to trial and you lose. Well, maybe the judge made a mistake. Maybe he made an error. Maybe he abused his discretion, right? So you would feed the decision into the findings of the court or the decision into the AI with your documents, and you would say, "Do you think the judge made an error or whatever?" You can ask him that thing, right? And you can say, "Can you prepare a legal brief based upon the rules of appellate procedure for this state?" It goes on and on. Not that you guys are in there doing this all the time, but you see how accessible this access to the law can be. All right. The whole system is trying to deny us access to the law. And with AI, we can actually get around that system. We still have a problem with the actual court appearance, but with information, we have it available. Okay. Lawyers traditionally, when they have access to this case law, when lawyers have access to this case law, they pay a lot of money, thousands of dollars a year to have this, and they pay paralegals and office space and all this stuff. They pay for that, and we don't have ready access to that. And we've had to go to the law library or go maybe subscribe as not a good service or something like that. Well, look, we have it right here. Now, I hope that the AI we're using, I hope that they're not going to try and censor it to where it doesn't look things up. Maybe some don't. But anyways, that's another example. Any questions on that? I know it's in the technical area that hopefully you guys never have to deal with a court procedure, but you can apply this in other areas of your life. In fact, I can just make something up right here. Let's just say, for example, let's just say we go back here, right? And let's just make something. I get other examples here, but let me just make something up. Let's just say, right? So imagine you talk to somebody about an idea or something, and you want to write a quick partnership agreement, right? And you just give them like a little couple of facts about what you're doing. See, there's not much detail here, right? And abracadabra.
Could this be like the beginning of an LLC?
Well, thank you very much for Elaine. Thank you, Elaine, for this because I I'm going to do that for you right now.
Okay.
All right. So you see, and done. Okay. And that doesn't mean you're done, but it just means you did a lot more than if you spent $500 to pay a lawyer to do this for you, which you would have done. Okay. That's what I'm talking about. So as what Elaine is just asking. So let's say I want to write uh, articles of organization for a limited liability company. Let's say like this. I'll do like this. So it's going to write my articles for me. Okay. It's not gonna have an address because I didn't tell it what the address is, but it's gonna do all this, right? That's your articles. See how nice that is? You'll have to fill in the registered agent. I mean, I could have done that in the prompt if I wanted to. I can give it more detail in the prompt, right? This is the prompt. But let's take it a step further because what's really important is an operating agreement because that describes all the rights and obligations of the members. Just like that, right? Now, that's going to be so naked. It's not going to have really any good things in there, okay? But I'm just telling you, you see how you can do this. You can even have bylaws for a corporation written up for you. Okay, you know how these exchanges, like, they ask you stuff, right? What do they ask you for? Can we have a flow chart of your an organizational chart, right? Forget the chart, okay? Let's just say you want to have how about a shareholder list, right? So like this. Let's see if that's enough information for it. Right. See, LLCs don't have shareholders. The AI knows this. But anyways, so you know how like Coinbase asks you for garbage like this? Imagine if you just went to the AI and just did this and then did this. And look how nice that looks, right? And guess what? It's the same information that was already in the articles. It just looks different. Who thinks that's a good idea? Karen, do you think that's a good idea?
I
Amazing.
actually did it. I
Oh,
did it
okay.
for
Nice.
Kraken.
Nice.
I've
Okay.
used, I was just gonna comment and ask a question. So
Okay.
I've used AI. I actually was using Sentient. It's free for
Oh,
as
okay.
much as I'm using it. And I've been writing an engagement letter for some new professional services that I'm going to be offering. And I've been impressed, like it backs it up, just like what you were showing in your examples. But I think I'm going to go and I'm going to compare it to Chat GPT too and see if I get something different. But
Yeah, that's good. And if you do it a couple of times, you'll get different results as well. If you change the prompt around a little bit, you'll get different results.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I actually
Yeah.
sent it to these people that are kind of offering me some baseline training. I don't really need it, but they're giving me some training. They offered to review my letter for free, and I spent hours going through some templates, putting it through the AI, and then I sent it to them, and I could tell that they ran it through an AI, and
Yeah.
they came back and told me it was totally weak and I was exposed, and they want to charge me like $500.
That's
So I'm gonna go
how
back.
lame. What are they really wasting time? Yeah, gosh, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, but okay, so my question is, when you were talking about showing that example on the FDCPA case,
Mhm.
um, and I think Alex is working on it too, can you actually say that you've never been contacted by the creditor when you've been paying the bill?
Yes.
Yeah, explain that. I know
Because
I've asked that
the
before.
only thing that is important in the court is what is in the pleading. And almost every, gosh, I've done tens of thousands of these, no exaggeration. And they never have substantial allegations or evidence that you had knowledge of the account. That's why I developed that. My defense is, I don't know who you are. You must have got my name off the internet somehow and then just made up a bunch of stuff because you guys have software. That's what my defense is. That they're starting from behind the starting line.
Even if you're dealing directly with like Citibank and not a third-party debt collector.
Yes. Yes, I've had cases where Citibank comes in there with a signed contract, Exhibit A. And I look through it, it says, oh, I see a signature. And I make the argument, that's not my signature, and I didn't sign this. I've never seen this before in my life. Yep. In a motion to dismiss. You guys just made this up. That's what I tell them. Because there is no one else who can authenticate that signature, and it's not self-authenticating, so they can't satisfy the rules of evidence. So why would I help them? And yeah, it's a lie, but it's legal. I can do it. That's the game. Remember, our legal system is adversarial, so I can lie. Now, I can't do it to commit fraud. Like I can't, if I'm trying to qualify for like some sort of financial benefit, I can't lie there. I can't ask the court to waive fees and claim that I'm poor, but I'm rich, right? That's a problem. But if I lie about a material fact that requires the burden of proof is on the other party, all I've done is keep the burden of proof on the other party. Why should I relieve them of the burden of proof? Because I'll tell you what'll happen. If I just acknowledge for 1 second, for a blink of an eye, I acknowledge that I had a Citibank card, I will lose that case no matter what. I don't have any chance whatsoever. I will lose on summary judgment because that judge has seen 10,000 a month and he'll just say, yep, you're one of them. Get out of here, pay the bill, like everybody else. That's what he'll say. But if I come in there and say, I never heard of these people, he'll just start thinking, oh, wait a minute, this might be a victim of identity theft. We should uphold the burden of proof in this one. Where
Mhm.
before they wouldn't. That's how you get the court to do its job sometimes, unfortunately. All right.
Okay.
John, you just described the last 6 months of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. You know the feeling, right?
I know. Well,
Yeah, so that's good, Elaine, that you asked me that because a great example. Let me just share a couple of, you guys can stop me if you want, but let's see, what was demonstration? What did I do last time? Demonstration 3 or something? Let's try 4. Here's one. I just went online and I found a case. You guys can look it up if you want. It's here. It's here, it'll tell you about the case. The DOJ made this case. What they were arguing is whether or not it's unconstitutional to write laws for local cities to write laws imposing limitations on the homeless who want to or have a need to sleep outside in public areas. Okay, so I just thought that would be a nice big. It was 41 pages, so I thought, what better example than to come in and ask it a couple of questions. So I asked it to review the brief, and it corrected me, by the way. It's not a Supreme Court brief. It's an amicus brief filed by a non-party to the case. Tell me your understanding. So I'm asking it to come to a conclusion or an understanding of what it's reading. I'm not asking it for anything outside of what I'm giving it to read. Be very clear on that. About possible solutions for the problem. So the AI may have read this and had an understanding and may have read in the court's ruling possible solutions here, but I asked the AI to tell me what it thinks possible solutions might be. I want to know what it thinks. So it goes off to say, and I'll just summarize it, that the court really didn't give too many solutions, but there are some implications here, right? And here's what it's proposing. There's some, we can do these things, right? Step one, step two, we can do these things as a possible way to address homelessness. All right. So you see, the AI is a great tool for distilling huge amounts of information in a very short time and helping you move on. Please provide a policy memo. It asked me, do you want a policy memo? And it also asked me if I wanted like a summary of proposed solutions. And I said, nah, I just want a policy memo. And here's what it came up with. Here's a policy memorandum. So in view of this holding by the court and the court in the amicus brief, I should say, in view of this amicus brief, here's a possible policy memorandum that a city could adopt. And I had the AI write it. So you guys get the idea. Now there's one, the last thing I did was, okay, this one, this is my, my pet peeve on the DOH, right? The Department of Health. They're getting too much money and everybody's getting too fat. Why are people getting too fat? The DOH is saying obesity is a problem, and yet it's getting more money and people are getting fatter. Isn't the DOH, and it's not exclusive. We can't just say the DOH is the cause because there are other reasons, right? People don't take care of themselves or they follow bad advice or something, whatever happens, right? But on a general large scale, the DOH is claiming to have a mission to deal with these things and solve these problems. That's its mission statement. And it's getting huge public funds for this. So let's make it accountable. So I look at this large prompt. It's kind of a large one. I went and described this whole thing like you've heard me talk about before. And so I asked it something. Wouldn't it make sense? I'm asking this AI, wouldn't it make sense for people or taxpayers to reduce the funding, right? As long as it's failing in reaching its objectives in the mission statement. It's very specific, right? That's a provocative and important question. So it goes on and it kind of agrees with me and says, yeah, there's some things here, but it does say like, these are the problems, but it does say, here's some, arguments for doing it. But it says, oh, look, there are some other things here that, show the DOH is not the only problem. So you have to give it some credit there. It's actually kind of thinking, I guess. But here's some things we could do. More oversight. We can investigate the use of the money, all this stuff, right? But it's nice to have like, okay, so it's asking me, do you want to draft a formal proposal, right? So yeah, let's do that. So we would do something like this, right? It's very organized and it allows you to quickly come up with something that you can use to communicate your ideas. So if you wanted to present something to your Department of Health at a meeting or make it a matter of public record, you don't have to go there and argue with them like people do. You could just append your proposal here to the notes, the record that's being made of the meeting. Whenever your DOH has a public meeting, you can append your notes to it. In fact, you can go append notes to relevant meetings that took place 2 years ago. Why? Because you want your idea to be on public record because you want to bring it up later and then people can look at it, you see. This is a great way to distill your ideas onto something that's, can be used and negotiated and, discussed. It saves you all kinds of time. So this alleviates the excuse for, not doing something, I think. I mean, we'll come up with more, I guess. But this has been so helpful for me recently. I mean, the other day I had something quick come up because a client he didn't read something and I caught something in the end and then I had to go. He's like, yeah, sure, I got that document. And I thought, okay, it's the document I was waiting for. And no, it was the court dismissing an appeal. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. He didn't even read it because that's like, warning, I got to do something. So I just simply I uploaded that to the AI. Not that I don't know what to do, but I want the AI to do most of the work for me, but I already know what to do. I just didn't have to run around for 3 hours and do it. So I gave it to the AI and I said, hey, can you, look at the problem here? Here's the situation. This is what happened. And then the AI came back and said exactly what I knew it would say. And it gave me a little bit more. And then I said, can you write this into a brief? And I need a motion and then this and that. And bam, we just did that and it's problem solved. And the appeals back on the docketing sheet. That took me like 15 minutes to make it look all pretty. It would normally take like 3 hours. So hopefully you guys don't need to use the court in that capacity, but that's there. Don't feel powerless. And let's say if you want to write a letter to your HOA, think about this concept. So let's say I'm running a letter to my HOA. Who doesn't need to do that? People that don't have an HOA, right? Because every HOA is going to. So here's a quick example. Understand this two things about HOAs. Just so when you have this concept, it makes it more fun to do a really cool letter through the AI. So the first concept is your homeowners association exists because it claims to protect the property values. Am I wrong? That's what they do, right? So if it's going to claim to protect your property values by doing whatever it wants to do, whatever it says, the rules, okay, then is it accountable to you if your property value goes down? And does it have a claim on more money if your property becomes worth more? It doesn't either way, right? So it doesn't have any business telling you that it's protecting the value of your property because it's not liable to do that. It's not indemnifying you against the loss of value in your property. If you sell your property for less value because your neighbor likes to keep his car up on blocks, that's the HOA is not going to indemnify you for that. Meaning it's not going to compensate you for the $15,000 more you could have sold your house for, right? But your neighbors keep ugly lawns. So that's a false premise. So your HOA is already operating under a false premise. Number two, your HOA exists without the corporate structure. It exists without the covenant. It exists without the bylaws. It exists without your board of directors. Your association with your neighbors is an association that exists because you live there next to your neighbors. That is your association, okay? People that are in the association of those with right hands, that are right-handed, are members of an association of people who are right-handed. That's the common thing the association has, right? Well, if you live in a neighborhood, like everybody knows this neighborhood is different from that neighborhood, okay? You just know that. Well, you're in that association of neighbors. So the homeowners association, the corporate version that has the lawyers and the bylaws and the board of directors, that is a corporation that is not an association. It is not a member of your association either. That's an important distinction to make because it's dictating rules, and rightly so, but it's an important distinction to make that the homeowners association, the corporate version, is not a member of your association and is not your association. You are the association. So you operate through the board, but most people don't. They just give up and they do, they complain about the psychopaths and then they just do what they're told or something, But what I'm saying is, so now with that idea in mind, if you gave that information, what I just said, you described that nature of that association to the AI, and you said, with that understanding, write this letter because I keep getting these notices that my grass is too high, but my neighbors like it. My neighbors like it. I check with them. They think it looks nice. They like the rich green color. So can you write me a letter that tells my HOA to stop wasting money sending me letters about this matter? Because first of all, you didn't indemnify me against the value change of my property. And you're not actually going to protect the value of my property. You actually are not responsible. And you're not a member of the association, by the way. You're actually not a member of my association. But nonetheless, just know that my neighbors like my grass. Have the AI write you a nice letter. It gets kind of fun after a while. Maybe it might be addictive, might be your new hobby.
Can you talk, like, just brainstorm how that could escalate out? I'm just curious.
Okay, so take the whole covenant, feed it into the AI, then take the notice you got from the HOA and ask the AI, based on the set of facts, but be truthful. Give them the set of facts, no emotion, right? Say, ask them, do you see a violation of the covenant anywhere here? And if you do, is it a material violation? Is it really important? Right? That's how you would do something like that. That's how you would escalate it, right? If you needed to do that, you could. That's the power of the AI is I could take a 38-page document and ask that question and get an answer in 3 seconds, you know?
Would the HOA potentially come back and try to threaten to foreclose on you? Is that what they
Okay,
have?
the HOA does have the right to foreclose in most covenants because nobody amends the covenant. You can amend the covenant to divest the HOA of that power. That's why you have these problems. Because they know they can foreclose. So yeah, there's always a threat of this, right? But it takes a long time. There has to be a series of notices. There has to be a meeting. There has to be a judicial process, I think in every state. And you get a chance to be heard, in which case, if you're understanding how to use the AI, I think you're gonna have a really good chance of being heard. And if something is not material, if it's not important, or they're just harassing you, I think you'll be able to reveal that. I think you'll have a lot more power this way. It's
Okay.
your power of analyzing the documents.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, where have I violated the covenant? Where? One time I had a house where I put foil in the windows. I figured there's nothing in the covenant. I didn't even read the covenant. There's nothing in the covenant that says I can't put foil on some cardboard panels and stick them up on those windows that were draining all this heat in my room. Sure enough, in the covenant, it says you cannot put foil on panels and put it up in your room. So I said, oops, sorry. I actually had to take it down, because I didn't read the stupid covenant. I should have done that. I thought I was being smart. But anyways, the AI can do that for you very quickly, right? So let's see here. Okay. All right. I know you guys are going to educate me on this AI stuff. So, all right. Yeah. Yeah, you could tell the prompt, the AI. Yeah, you're right. I mean, if you use the AI, you can tell it it's operating in a certain capacity, like John Henry's saying. You can tell the AI it's operating in the capacity of a medical doctor, and you can ask it stuff. You could tell it you are my attorney. You are my business consultant. You are my real estate broker. I need you to tell me such and such and such. And then when you tell it something like that, you need to give it a set of a framework to operate under. So it'd be something like, you are my licensed real estate broker within the state of Florida. Please be advised of the rules governing the professional conduct or the Department of Professional Regulation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And once you have that all dialed in, then you can start asking it certain things like, what are we allowed to do in the state of Florida, right? Yeah, good point.
One thing about
It's interesting.
one thing
Yeah,
about LLMs is that like they're not databases and they don't retrieve information like they do like Google does, right? They're a predictive
that's true.
engine. So
Yeah, be
so it's
cautious about that
not
because I think they're searching some of them like AI, OpenAI is searching the web, but I wonder, I have to check and make sure because I don't want to rely solely on that. Some search the web and some don't. Sometimes you have to ask them, or sometimes you have to give them the reference. Sometimes instead of the URL, I like to give them the actual document.
yeah. The
Yeah.
one way I've been using it is I scraped. Have you heard of this word scraping?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so I scraped the entire SBA, like the Small Business Administration website, and I
Mhm.
fed it as a context. And I started asking questions like if I were to get, minority owned or women owned, whatever certification that I can get from the SBA to get a loan, and then I can go and bid for government contracts, what set of steps would I need to do based on
Yeah.
the SBA's documentation? So
That's a
you can
perfect use
scrape
of it. Yeah.
so it's scraping the entire website with with code, and it gives it
Mhm.
to you in a TXT file, and then you can upload that as context into the LLM.
Well, the
And
whole
that
website you put into a TXT with what application are you using?
it's code. Like I'm using code to extract the entire website, so
Code.
you can scrape any website you want, and you type
Yeah.
like I have a code on my computer that I run, and it's like, hey,
Oh, your own
scrape.
code that you've written. Okay. Yeah. Well, most
Yeah,
people aren't going to do that, but yeah, I understand. Yeah.
yeah.
Sure.
So
Yeah, that's a great way. Again, it's analyzing data. Alex, what do you think?
So I just wanted to point out that you really do have to check it. Like I've written a bunch of different motions and replies and supplemental briefs, and it's inserted citations that sometimes were legitimate, but there were a few times when it literally just made stuff up.
Oh, I
And
haven't
it
seen
looked,
that yet.
yeah, it looked real too. And I was like, boy, is this real? And I said, can you verify these citations? And it was like, oh no, these are just hypothetical. And I was like, well, I can't, and they were basically hypothetical citations that were calling out the defense that they've, been engaged in this kind of behavior in other cases, which wasn't true. Like it didn't have any public records that it could find
Right.
for that. And I almost
Yeah.
overlooked it, right? So
Yeah.
it's really
Yeah.
important to check the citations, and even with the rules, anything with the civil rules of procedure, you got to check those too, just to make sure. I just don't trust it on anything that isn't verified. So now in the prompts, I always say, give me verified citations.
Or you can
and
do it yourself manually. It does make sense. I've done that many times, manually check things out.
yeah. So, it's just important to keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
So can you train the AI not to do that?
Well, that's basically what I started doing by now in my prompts. I only ask it for verified citations or direct quotes that it can show me a link to, and then I go and check the link, obviously.
Okay.
So at least I know it's not just making stuff. It literally made a few citations up out of the blue.
I've heard of that.
I ran into that too. I use Sentient to check the citations, case law, and it'll shepherdize like 8 hours of reading, but that's what I usually use it for. Because it will give you wrong. I run into where it gave me citations where somebody had busted with a kilo of cocaine, and I was asking about IRS cases, So,
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's a good tool. But anyways, I just want to share that with y'all tonight, and I'll publish this. And by the way, I think I was able to finally monetize the YouTube channel. I just did that for more exposure. So you might see some commercials, I hate to say, but it's for a good cause. What I wanted to do is in monetizing it, it increases the chance that the channel will be discovered by more people. That's what I'm trying to do. So. All right, but yeah, anyways, I'm developing this device and I want to make it into a point where I hope in the next year, maybe this year, I could make it available as on my website as a prompt or on a separate website, I don't know, as a prompt where you can go to my site and you can ask me for information, for documents, for my opinion without calling me. You can just do it right through a prompt and we'll just have it like a subscription based or something like that.
And that would be your AI doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And so that way it's a lot faster than watching a series of videos, right? You can just go there and ask your question. And sometimes you don't know the question. So that's kind of, we'll have to work through that. But anyways, that's my idea. So
Wow.
just wanted to, by the way, as I do more videos, I'm going to show you more of this in the video. So you know how I talk about you can do this, you can do that. Now I'm going to show you how to do it with AI in the video. That'll be in my new subscriptions. You'll see. We'll talk about them later.
It's great.
Thanks, John.
All right, guys.
Great
Thanks.
chat. Thanks.
So
Enjoy your
are you taking next Thursday off?
I will not be here on the 3rd.
Okay.
Happy 4th. Be safe.
Thank you. You too.
All righty.
Take care.
great
Bye-bye.
call. Great dynamic mind storming call.
Thank you.